welcome back to Coffee Chats with Dawn. Hope you guys are having a wonderful week. Today I want to talk about my past internship experiences. I also want to provide some tips and my other thoughts on what really internships mean in the grand scheme of things, and also some things to look out for when you're trying to choose your next internship, and also what your takeaway should be from the different internships. Let's start off a little bit with where I came from and my background. So I got into University of Southern California as a fine arts major back in 2000. Oh my god, when did I go to college? Like 2011. And I thought that going into college that I was gonna be like some sort of a painter, actually, because I did a lot of fine art back in high school. Like I had like a whole portfolio full of paintings and drawings. Like I did a lot of figure drawings and stuff like that. And so I thought I was gonna become like this gallery person. Funny how life takes you into different paths. But anyway, that's how I got into college. And after I got into college, I remember my school required me to take all these different printmaking, pattern making, figure drawing, oil painting, like all these different kinds of classes. And one of the mandatory classes that we had to take if we wanted to enroll in the design program was to take a digital tools class. And so I did, and that's where I really learned in depth how to use programs like Illustrator and even a little bit of InDesign. And I actually really liked it. And a fun fact is, back when I was like in elementary school, I used to be like really obsessed with Lizzie McGuire. I taught myself how to make these GIFs and put it up on like not MySpace. I used Zanga, I think, back then. And I wonder if they're still there. I guess I did have, if you want to call that experience, using programs like Photoshop beforehand. But it wasn't really until college that I learned how to use Illustrator. And it was really fun. And so I kept taking more and more design classes. And towards the end of my college days, I started doing a lot of internships. Interned at Jeffrey Campbell, which was amazing. Definitely my favorite internship experience out of all the internships I've done, just because the art director that I was working under, Mike, he was like the coolest person ever. He taught me so much, and also was really open to letting me experiment with implementing things like GIFs and whatevers to the email templates that I was making, and it was really good. It was really fun. And I ended up like really loving it. At the time, I thought it was like all for resume building and just adding stuff to your portfolio, but it turns out that it wasn't really about that. It was actually about really learning about what each work culture is like, so that you can identify, oh, I love that part about working at Jeffrey Campbell, or I didn't love that part so much about working at Fox Sports. And I think these are the things that are actually the most valuable lessons from doing a variety of internships. Is you learn so much about what you don't like. And sometimes it's hard for people to pinpoint out what they really do like, because I don't know, is it like a psychology thing? Like I feel like people are like, oh, I think I like this, or I think I like that. But what people are usually a lot more definitive about is what you don't like. And I think that's something that I didn't realize until after all my internship days were over, that I was like, wow, like low-key, that really helped me figure out which path I wanted to take, because I realized through my different internship experiences that I definitely prefer a more studio-like environment where there's not too many coworkers or people that I'm sharing the space with. I like being able to have more creative freedom and creative control, which you can't if you're a part of like a big company. You know, let's say you're at some design department at like this huge corporation, kind of like similar to, I guess, how I was at Fox Sports, then you're really not given a lot of creative freedom. It's such an established environment and company already, and a lot of the times they have like these brand books that are so descriptive, and it literally in the brand book, it's like, you can use your logo on these colors. When you use a logo, it has to be proportionate to the subtext and blah, blah, blah. And there's just like all these crazy specific guidelines that you have to follow. And it makes sense. It's because it's such a big and established environment and a company that they can't afford to have people putting stuff on that's so different from like what their standard rules are. And I totally get that, but that's just not what I wanted in as part of my job and my life as a designer. I think that those things really helped me decide why I wanted to go into freelancing. Okay, so during college, also another thing is I also had a job on campus. On campus, there was a design studio that was really small and low key, but they were doing a lot of like the USC, like our school related flyers and posters. I remember like one of the things that I had to do was something towards like the USC hospitality and catering services. So I would have to create like website banners for them. And it was a pretty fun job. It was actually first job ever. I remember feeling so proud. Obviously, like I was only a sophomore back then. So that was probably like my lowest paying or minimum wage job, but I didn't even care because it was just so fun, and it felt like that was like my first real client experience or something, even though I was technically doing that as part of a USC worker, I guess. Yeah, in terms of internships, I definitely remember having a lot of internships during college that were catered more towards actually what I do now. Another one that I had was at this e-commerce company. They're kind of like a lesser known nasty gal. So after my Daily Look internship, then I had another internship at this company called Side Chef. And Side Chef was actually my friend's company. It was like a startup. By the way, someone pointed out during the last coffee chat that I never even took a sip of my coffee, and I was like, oh my god, I'm such a fraud. Like, I was not drinking my coffee at all. So just to prove it to you guys, I am drinking my coffee. Look, I already worked on it so much. Anyway, so during my experiences at Side Chef, it was actually really fun. I remember really liking working there. It was my first time working with like an app company. They would have me create like a lot of like mock-up wireframes for their app, and also little like flyers and stuff that they would print for their events, because since they are like a cooking and foods related company, I remember they would do like some social mixer things with like some of their users, or they would bring in like professional chefs to demonstrate stuff, and they would need like flyers and things like that for those events. So I would design those, and they were really fun. And also the team was so nice, and honestly, like they were all just such hardworking, kind people that even though like food is definitely not my thing, I really enjoyed working there. And I think I really liked the culture there because it was such a like, oh, we can do it, like everyone's so motivated, kind of a startup vibe. And I think that's the best part about working at like startups usually. Again, not to generalize, but I do feel like whenever I'm in like a smaller company or some kind of like a startup setting, I think the company culture tends to be a little bit nicer, and something that I would like personally more. And then my third internship experience was going back to my experiences at Jeffrey Campbell. If you guys don't know, Jeffrey Campbell Shoes is kind of like the shoe designer for, I feel like, girls my age. Growing up, most girls I know had like a pair of the Litas, which is like these like crazy chunky heeled boots, and they're so badass and rebellious. And I remember really liking Jeffrey Campbell during like my high school days. During one of my classes during college, I had to reach out to working professionals in the industry and connect with them and get advice from them. And it was like an interview thing that I had to do with like working professionals. So I remember doing like hella LinkedIn stalking and I found like Mike, the art director of Jeffrey Campbell, and I reached out to him. I also reached out to a bunch of other people who most of them like didn't even respond or read. Understandable, totally understandable. But anyway, Mike actually responded and he was like, hey, like I have time this time to this time. And I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. Like I'll be there. Like I'll make it really quick and like it'll be a short interview. So I went and he was like super chill, super nice. And I remember he was like wearing like the coolest, it looked like some kind of custom Nike shoes or something. I don't know if they were, but anyway, he looked really cool and he was like really chill. And he was explaining to me about how, you know, Jeffrey Campbell's like super chill and they're super into their own stuff. So they don't try to be like all these like other companies. They're just looking at themselves and improving them. And I was like, oh, wow, like you guys seem like a really great company. And actually at the end of the interview, I remember asking Mike like, hey, like, is it okay if we stay in touch? Like, I feel like you're such a great role model and I would love to learn more from you. So I think like a year from then, I ended up emailing Mike and being like, hey Mike, I've been thinking about like wanting to intern with you guys and I just wanted to know if, you know, that's something that you guys offer. And Mike was like, yeah, come intern with us. Like there wasn't even like a let me interview you or anything like that because I'm hoping that he had a good impression of me when I went to interview him. And I remember like pitching to him one time this idea of like, hey, would it be really cool if we can incorporate like GIFs into the email sequence? Because I think it would be a lot more eye-catching. And he was like, you know what, like do it. So if you know how to do it, do it. So I remember like making these GIFs on Photoshop and then exporting it. And then so it looked like one of them was like the shoe, it had like a pairs of eyes on it. And then the shoe would like wink because it was supposed to be like a winking shoe. And I remember animating stuff like that. There was like another one that had this very kawaii Japanese aesthetic. And I would like add these like, not emoticons, but like cute little symbols on them. So they like twinkle. I have the best memories of interning at Jeffrey Campbell, honestly. And I know I wanted to go into freelance anyway afterwards, but definitely if I'm ranking like my internships from past to now, Jeffrey Campbell would definitely be at the top. And I obviously don't talk to Mike like I used to anymore, but like, you know, like we follow each other on Instagram. Whatever he's doing, he's probably killing it because he's such an awesome guy. And I realized from working with him too that I was like, oh, I want to be an art director like him because he has this like quiet confidence that he doesn't like look super crazy or flashy. He's almost like understated in like a really cool way, and he doesn't brag about himself or talk about stuff too much, but you can tell that he just knows what he wants and is very specific on his vision without having to be like a douche to anyone about it. And he's also like the nicest person, so people actually really respected him. And that was something that I was like, oh wow, like that's the kind of art director and I guess boss, if I ever get to be one, that I want to be. I have to go into the next part and just give you a few pointers and personal experiences about internships. I just really want to highlight that you are not doing these internships with the hopes that you are going to get a job at the end of this. Obviously, that is something that everyone hopes for going into the internship, but I think when you have that kind of mentality, you are almost already thinking that this is gonna be like the internship of your lifetime, which I think is not a good mentality to have. Obviously, like whatever internship it is that you committed to, you should always try your best and give it your all, and also really immerse yourself into the company culture and the world so that you are able to really experience what it feels like to be part of this family or this internship experience. And that's the only way you're really gonna be able to tell, oh wow, like I think I fit into this culture really well. Or it's gonna be like, yo, this internship is not for me. The people are not for me. The whatever culture or whatever they're talking about, it's just not my thing. And you will know. But I just wanted to say, don't go into this with the mentality of like, oh, I'm gonna do such a good job and they're gonna offer me a job and that this is gonna be like a happy ending. Because at the end of the day, like you as a person should also get to have a say in if you want to work in this company. You're already setting such a bad power dynamic, in my opinion, as to, oh, the company is just everything that you want and you're just like this slow person that has to prove yourself. Obviously, like any working anywhere else, you have to prove yourself and you have to prove your worth, of course. But what if the company turns out not to be something you wanted? And like, I wouldn't want you to ever put yourself in a position where you're tricking yourself into believing that this is really what you want. And also, it's like kind of like that high school like love story or something where you believe that like, please don't go into your first internship with the mentality that you're gonna fall in love with it and that's where you're gonna work for the rest of your life, because that is not it, and that is not a healthy mentality to have. It's literally like a high school romance thing, and of course like it works out for some people, like, and the lucky few, but for most you're probably not going to end up working there or being with that company for the rest of your life, and you shouldn't be too attached to something before you even start it. The next thing that I also want to talk about is probably the importance of, at your internship, always think about, first of all, you want to get permission from your boss or your supervisor that what you create during this internship is something that you can proudly showcase on your portfolio. A lot of the times, if you're just doing this internship for credit or a very small stipend or pay, usually they do allow you, and they understand that college kids are also doing this internship for that reason. So that shouldn't really be an issue. But I do really recommend going with a company or a studio or whatever internship, honestly, where they do allow you to share the work that you do. To me, that was like a huge motivating factor, and I feel like that would be for a lot of other students too. And even if you do end up getting hired there, that's probably what it's gonna be like for the rest of your time there. So why waste your time applying for companies that you know isn't it, you know isn't gonna help you grow? At the end of the day, what's the most important is also like, how much can you grow and how much value does this internship add and bring to your portfolio? And as a student, you only have so many years you can dedicate to doing internships, so you gotta be pretty choosy about that kind of stuff, and that's really important. And always have the question in mind, like, will this help me figure out what I want to do in life? And also, will this internship be helpful for my portfolio? If it's a cool internship, for instance, me with the Fox Sports internship, right? As much as I really am grateful for the opportunity to have interned there, because now I know that's not what I wanted to do, thinking back on it, I'm like, oh, why did I even apply for that? It's like, I should have known. I don't watch Fox, and I also don't watch sports. So I don't know why I did that. Well, I know why. It was because I felt like at the time, adding something Fox, like some kind of a big recognizable corporation to my portfolio, I thought that was the answer to getting a cool job after college. And it obviously didn't even matter at the end of the day, because I did end up going with my freelancing career. But that was kind of the mentality back in college when I took that internship and applied for it. To answer the big question of how helpful was doing all those internships for the work that you do now, as in the work that I do now, I want to say that it was not that helpful, just because I personally feel like it's kind of like the resume talk, where no one, when it comes to the freelancing world and the people that I've worked with and my past clients or my current clients, most of them have never asked to see my resume or my internship experiences. I think when I was first starting to freelance, I had a couple pieces on my portfolio that I had created during my internships. So that, I guess, in the sense of like having a little bit more work to put on your portfolio, that was fine. But I also had a lot of like mock-up projects or like fake imaginary projects that, you know, I would just basically passion projects. And I personally don't feel like, if you don't have an internship right now, or if you are having trouble finding one but you feel like you really need to, I would recommend that you don't stress too much about it, because at least if you're trying to go into freelance, like, I don't think it matters as much as you think. And I hope this can give you a little bit of assurance that, you know, it's not something that's gonna like make or break your career. And I really wanted to emphasize that, because I know right now is a really weird time for everyone, and I'm sure it's really stressful trying to do like digital internships, or if they even offer those right now. Like, so don't stress too much about it, guys. And I just want to say that at the end of the day, if you are diligent and if you have good work ethic and if you have a strong portfolio that you worked on yourself, it doesn't need to be from some fancy internship, then you're good enough and you're set. This was really fun. I think today's episode felt a little bit more relaxed and a little bit more myself. Like I think I was really nervous for the first one too, so I was just like really frozen up the whole time. And I'd love for you guys to let me know what you guys want me to cover in the next coffee chat so that I could do my due diligence and prepare and make sure that I am answering any questions or concerns that you guys might have. I personally really love doing these coffee chats because I think it's a good way for me to also remind myself, I guess, what I used to do in college. And it's like interesting to walk back down the memory lane. So as always, thank you so much, and let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!